Hi and welcome back. In this video we're going to begin to learn the basics of what HTML is and how to use it. And we're actually going to start off by talking about the different aspects or different layers that go to building up a web page. And this is something that a lot of people learn a little bit down the road in web design, but if you know it up front, it's going to make a lot of what we're going to learn in the next few videos a lot easier to understand. And what I've done sometimes is compared a web page to a building. And if you think about a building, every building has a structure underneath. It's got the beams and the columns and all that good sort of stuff, the drywall and the wood. It's the structure that supports the building. And then every building also has an appearance, the way it's going to look. This is things like the paint and the carpet and all the appearance items. A building wouldn't look very good if it was just all beams and columns and things like that. We need paint and carpet and windows and all that good sort of stuff. So every building has a structure, and every building also has an appearance. Now, once you have the building built, the building doesn't exist just for itself. It exists so that you can put stuff in it and so that you can do stuff with it, or you can do stuff inside of it. And it's the same thing is true for a web page. With a building, the content might be desks and chairs, bookshelves, sofas, things like that. So you have content that you put into the building. And hopefully the content matches the appearance somewhat. And then finally, again, just building a building and filling it up with desks and chairs and bookshelves, again, really wouldn't serve a purpose. Something's going to go on. Something's going to happen in that building. Actions are going to take place. And the same thing is true on many web pages. Many web pages don't exist just to give you information. They also allow you to do something. For instance, you might want to fill out a form and then submit it to somebody. So every building has a structure. Every building has its appearance. Every building has content inside of it. And every building has things that go on or actions that take place in it. And again, same thing is true for your web page. Every web page has an underlying structure. And that underlying structure is written in a language called HTML. Now, there are some other exceptions to this, but generally 95% of websites that you visit, the basic structure is going to be written in a language called HTML. And then every web page has an appearance. And the appearance on a web page actually has two different aspects to it. It has the way things are positioned, and it also has the way things appear or the way things look. So for instance, you may have a menu that's over to the left, a navigation menu. Well, we would use CSS to position that over to the left. Or you may want to use a particular font. Or a particular font color. Those are all aspects of the way the web page is going to appear. And we write that type of code in a language called CSS. And again, don't worry about that we're talking about computer languages now. HTML and CSS are very simple to learn how to write. And you'll have to trust me on that for right now, but a lot of HTML and CSS is just plain English. For example, if you want to change the color of some text, the CSS word for that is color. If you want to create a division on a page, well, the HTML word for that is div, or div, short for division. So the language is very, very similar to reading English. And then every website is also going to have content. And that's going to be the text, the images, the things people go to read or find on your web page. Now, sometimes the content is kept in a database. And that's beyond the scope of what we're going to do in this series. But oftentimes the content, the text and the image, is stored inside of the structure, inside of your HTML. And that's going to be the way we work in this class. And then finally we have actions, the things your website does. And normally actions are written in a language called JavaScript or PHP. And again, we're not going to learn how to write JavaScript or how to write PHP in this class, but later on in our projects, we are going to learn how to use some pre-existing JavaScript and PHP to make our web pages do things. So 4 different aspects to each web page: the structure, the presentation, the content, and the action. And again, for this class, we're not really going to worry about actions right now. The important point that I want you to take away from this is that you should separate these 4 different facets of a web page in your mind, so you can focus on the structure and on the presentation and then on your content. And this also brings up the topic of what process you're actually going to go through when you're creating a website. And the web design process is fairly simple, fairly straightforward. And we're going to talk about that more when we work with our projects. But the 3 main steps to setting up your website take place right in here: creating a page structure with HTML, adding your content to the HTML structure, and then creating your page presentation, the look of your website with CSS. So those 3 things are really going to dominate most of what we're going to do in this class. And again, we're going to come back and talk more about some of these things in a little bit. So HTML, and I'm going to go ahead and switch back into my first website, and you should still be here. HTML, when I open up my index page here by double-clicking on it, just double-click on that page, it will open up, you'll see that the page is blank. You're going to also notice by default you're probably in design view right now. We don't want to be in design view, we want to be in code view. And Dreamweaver tries to help you out by putting in some sample code in your page. And I'm going to go ahead and go to Edit, Select All, or use the keyboard shortcut for that, and just delete everything that's in there. We actually don't need that. And we want to learn how to build these pages from scratch. Now, when you're working with HTML, there are 2 kinds of what are called tags or commands inside of HTML. There are structural tags and there are semantic tags. Just hold that in your mind for right now. Now, what is a tag? A tag is simply a code that tells a web browser what something is. For example, I'm going to go ahead and look at this in design view, and you can see there's nothing on this page right now. But I'm going to go ahead and type hello world here. Whoops. So I've gone ahead and typed some text there. When I go into code view, you're going to see that that has been placed also in the code view. But you're going to notice there's nothing around that right now. But let me go ahead and go back into design view, and I'm going to hit return here, and I'm just going to type another welcome message. Well, now it's kind of obvious that there's two different paragraphs of text here. Hello world and another welcome message. When I go into code view, you're going to see that Dreamweaver actually helped me out here. It put these items right here in for me. And you'll see I have an opening bracket, the letter P, and a closing bracket. This is called a P tag, or a paragraph tag. And you're going to find that as we go through HTML, again, much of this is going to relate to simple English words. So this indicates to a browser when we open up this page that hello world is a paragraph. And then after that we have this item here, which again is an opening bracket, a slash, a P, and a closing tag. The only thing different between these two items is this slash here. The slash indicates that that's the end of that particular item. So I start a paragraph, there's the contents of the paragraph, and I close my paragraph. I start another paragraph, and then I end that paragraph. The same thing could be done with headings. Like, let's say I want to put a heading on this page. It's going to appear big and bold. Well, you might think that that's just simply going to be an H tag. And I could type welcome to my web page. And then I could close my H tag there. And you'd be very, very close in guessing that an H tag is a heading. There's only one difference. Sometimes pages have multiple heading levels on them. You may have a main heading, and then you may have a subheading below that, or a secondary heading, and then there might be even the third level or tertiary headings below that. So we include a number here to indicate what heading level it is. So we can say something's a first level heading, a second level heading, so on and so forth, third level heading, all the way through a sixth level of headings. So you can have H1s through H6s. But again, the important point is to remember the tag opens and the tag closes. And the only difference between the opening and the closing tag is that slash there. So where you have an opening tag, you're almost always going to have a closing tag. So now I have a heading and a couple of paragraphs here. And when I go into design view, you can see, well, there's that heading. It's big and it's bold. And you can also see it's given some space in between these different items. The presentation here, or the look of this text, is just the default for your browser. We haven't specified anything for it. It's just whatever shows up as a default. I could come in here and I could put a second level heading. So I'll type this as a secondary heading, and then I'm going to go ahead and close that H2 tag. And then I'm going to go ahead and type another paragraph in here. And you're going to notice as I type that opening bracket, Dreamweaver actually brings up this little code hinting window. And we'll learn more about that as we go along. Then if I type a slash, it actually realizes that the slash means I'm closing something. So it's going to go ahead and close that P tag there for me. So it saves me a little bit of typing. Dreamweaver's code hinting and code finishing, a lot of people don't like it. You can turn it off. I love it and think it really speeds things up, and it is the default. We'll talk about how to turn that off a little bit later. But you can see I can put another paragraph there, and I can continue to put more and more items or more and more lines on this page. And I'm going to go ahead and go into design view, and you can see there's that secondary heading there with a couple paragraphs below it. And you can see there's actually equal line space between each one of these paragraphs. When we look at this here, you're going to notice that, well, the spacing here doesn't really correspond to anything here in our visual design. And that's because HTML doesn't recognize what is called white space as being important. If I was to go ahead and, let's say I'm going to come in here and hit enter a whole bunch of times in my code view here, just put a lot of white space in there, and I'm going to save my page. When I come back into design view, everything still looks the same. So extra lines will be ignored by your browser. The same thing is also true of tabs. If I was to indent this in here and save it and come into design view, you're going to see that I've got a P right here, P tag, and that's because I actually broke open my paragraph tag. Let's say I go ahead and just knock that over a little bit more like that. Nothing is indented. So all this extra white space is ignored by your browser. And that is actually going to be very, very helpful for you, because as we begin to learn how to write HTML and CSS, you're going to use extra line, blank lines, and tabs and indents to sort of organize your code so that it's more readable. But know that if you add extra blank lines or tabs, the browser is going to completely ignore that. I also want you to notice that if I have any unsaved changes on my page, a little asterisk is going to appear to the right of the page name in my tab right up here at the top. If I go to File and Save, you'll see that asterisk disappears. But as soon as I go ahead and do anything on the page, make any change at all, even adding an extra line, that asterisk appears and it tells me I've got unsaved changes. If you try and close your page, just like in Microsoft Word, if you do have unsaved changes, it's going to ask you if you want to save them. I'm going to say yes here. And when I reopen it, you'll see that I'm back at that spot there. And you can go ahead and again open as many pages as you want. I'm going to go ahead and double click on about.html here. And again, I've got all that code there. I'm just going to go ahead and delete it. And in an H1 tag, I'm going to go ahead and type about our website. And then close my H1. And then I'll put a sample paragraph here. And once I save that and go into design view, we can see that page there. I'll go into my contact page, and again I'm going to delete all that boilerplate text or code that Dreamweaver adds in. And we'll do an H1, and I'm going to say contact information page. Close my tag. Very important to close your tags. Whoops. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and just type in 1234 Main Street. Close my paragraph. Open another paragraph. Los Angeles, California. And then I'm going to go ahead and close that. tag right there. I'll save it, and again, when I look at this in design view, there's my contact information page. So you can very easily enter information into your pages, but you need to be in code view, and you need to know what kind of content you're adding. Is this a main heading? Is it a paragraph? In the case of our index page, we have a secondary paragraph here. I could put H3 here and type third level heading and then close it. And I'm actually just going to copy and paste this down here. And I can do a fourth level heading. And I'll save that. When I go into the design view, you can see there's a third level heading on a fourth level heading. And again, the H tags, H1 through 6, and P tags are going to be very, very common tags that you're going to go ahead and use inside of HTML. So we have 3 pages in our website, and we've successfully gone ahead and added some content to each one of these pages and saved it. And again, the most important thing that you should have taken away from this lesson is the concept of an H tag and the concept of a P tag. And we're going to be talking about tags quite a bit throughout the course of this video. And if you go on the internet, you can actually look up a list of all the HTML tags that you're going to, or that are available to you. Unlike some languages that have hundreds or thousands of commands inside of them, really HTML has about 20 to 30 tags that you're going to need to know in order to effectively use it. So if you think about it, memorizing 20 to 30 commands is not going to be that difficult, especially when they make a lot of sense, like H1 for a first level heading, or P for a paragraph. Or let's say I wanted to create a bulleted list or an unordered list on my page. Well, that would be a UL tag. And again, where I open it, I need to close it. Now, here's something that's going to be a little bit different. In our previous examples, we've had our opening tag, the content, and the closing tag. In this case, I put the opening tag and the closing tag on different lines. And you can definitely do that. Remember, your browser is going to completely ignore extra white space or extra lines. If I was to go ahead and, let's say, about this web page, you can see the way it looks now. If I was to go ahead and do this, just like that, and save it, let's see what this would look like. When I go into design view, it still says about our web page. Whoops. It's completely ignoring the extra line breaks there. And I can go ahead and delete those. And save this. I'm going to come back in exactly the same. Which actually leads us to a question. What if we wanted sample and paragraph or about an hour? What would if we wanted that to be on separate lines? Well, one way you could do that is you could do sample and then close your P tag, just like that. And then open another P tag on that line. and you'll see sample paragraph, but that isn't really what we were thinking about. We weren't thinking about breaking that line into 2 paragraphs. We just wanted a line break. So what would we do in that case? I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And now we're back to the way we were before. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and type a BR tag. Whoops. And that's just an opening bracket, the letters BR for break, and a closing bracket. Now, the BR tag is a special tag inside of HTML. It's special because you don't need a closing tag. All you need to do is type an opening bracket, BR, and closing bracket. So again, most tags inside of HTML, when you open them, you have to close them. But break is different. This just is going to insert a line break for you. And when I save this and look at it in design view, now you can see I haven't created 2 separate paragraphs. I've just put a line break in between those 2 items there. And you can use breaks for whatever you want. I'm going to go ahead and remove that and save it. Now, coming back here, we said we wanted an unordered list. And remember, I said an unordered list or a bulleted list is indicated by a UL tag. And I have my opening tag as well as, whoops, sorry about that. I have my opening tag as well as my closing tag there. But when I go ahead and look at it in design view, it's empty. There's nothing there. So I need to go ahead and put some list items inside of this unordered list. I need to put some bullet points in there. And the individual list items, those need to be indicated by using an LI tag or list item. Oops. So I'm going to do opening bracket, LI, closing bracket, and I'm just going to create a list of names. So I'm going to go ahead and do Timothy, and then I'm going to close that LI tag. And then I'm going to go ahead and do Joshua, and close that tag, Mark, and Nicholas. So now I've got a very simple unordered list here that has 4 names in it, or 4 individual items. I'm going to save that. When we go into design view, there I can see my bulleted list. And it actually has bullets again because that's just what the default styling for a browser is, for a list item within an unordered list to have that round bullet. You can completely change that with CSS, which we'll learn about later. You can also do ordered lists or numbered lists. To do an ordered list is exactly the same process, only instead of having an opening UL tag, I have an opening OL tag. So UL for unordered list, OL for ordered list. And again, I had to change both the opening and the closing on that. And now when I save this and go into design view, well, now you can see it's a numbered list. And again, you can change the numbering style. If I wanted this to be a different numbering style like A, B, C, D, you could change that using CSS. But the default is for that just to be a numbered list. Now, remember, I not only said that Dreamweaver is going to ignore extra lines, but it also is going to ignore extra spaces or extra tabs. And that could be very, very useful because what I can do is I could indent these items here. And you can now see that indentation. This sort of reads like these list items are contained within these other tags. And that's exactly true. We would say this li is nested, or this li is contained within an OL, or within an ordered list. And again, when I go into design view, you'll see it's got the same indent as before when I didn't have any indentation on it. Or if I was to tab this, and by the way, I'm just taking for granted, you know this from other programs like Word, I can just highlight this text just like that by dragging, and I can press tab as many times as I want to move that over. When I save it, I don't know why I'd push it over that far, but if I save it and go into design view, you can see that extra space doesn't affect the formatting at all. And then I could go ahead, and if I wanted to move that back to the left in Dreamweaver, I hold down the Shift key and press tab. So tab moves it out, Shift tab will move it back. And again, that's very, very important for making your code readable. And we'll see more about that as we get more in depth into learning HTML. In the next video, we're going to go ahead and talk about some of the structural tags. The tags that we've been working with, like H1, P, OL, LI, those are all what we call semantic tags. The word semantic means to have meaning or to give meaning. In this case, H1 tells us something about the content. It says that this is a main level heading. P has meaning. It means what follows, or what's contained inside of this P tag, is a paragraph. OL, what's contained inside of that tag is a numbered list, so on and so forth. Structural tags are more invisible tags behind the scenes that allow you to structure the content of your page. And you're going to see what I mean more about that when we start our next video. So again, next video, we're going to talk about structural tags in HTML. I'll see you then.